All right, studio tour. I've spent the last year or 2 years sort of building. We built a room within the room, so this room isn't attached to the rest of the structure, and it stops vibrations and keeps it kind of the sound contained. This here at the back of the studio is actually a bass diffuser. So we put LEDs, we made this, but we put LEDs between sort of layers of wood to sort of break up the frequencies at the back of the room. Studio couch, of course, dog bed. The idea here as well is that everywhere you go, all the things you need are within arm's reach. So whether or not it's pens or paper or headphones or phone chargers. Put a silent air conditioner in here. It's not on silent right now, but the point remains. Bulkheads here contain air conditioning duct, but this one is actually just for show, for symmetry. The speakers on the roof here are IK multimedia, and I use that for the Atmos setup, so we can have dedicated speakers for the Atmos. This is just a board that gives us an opportunity to keep notes on what's going on. Here's all the control. And this is for the lights. So with this particular thing, there's a ton of different lights, and you can control the color of whatever it is. So you can, depending on the project, you can have different vibes. I tend to keep it on this kind of orangey one. This is the guest chair. So typically what happens in a studio is that the second chair is the crappy chair. But I wanted to have a good one because I feel it is disarming for folks that I work with. So you keep it comfortable. You've got your power chargers on the side. It's a Berber carpet, so if you spill anything, it cleans up reasonably easy. Little Buddha alcove there. We used a piece of plastic and we just curved it around the back and then put a seal. But what we tried to do is all the lines, I wanted them to be symmetrical or straight, and the cables, I wanted it to be the right length. This wall, I'm still waiting for an accent that goes there just to break up that parallel wall there. There used to be guitars, but I find that having guitars on the wall seems really cheesy in a way, because I'm only using them when I record. So other than that, it comes across as kind of like a collection, which I'm not into. The basic idea in here is I tried to eliminate as much gear as possible and make it as ergonomic as possible. Again, a lot of times with studios, the amount of crap that gets put into the studio for no particular reason, like rubber dog poop or anything, the sort of knickknacks that go with it. I think they're great for other people's studio, but for me, I don't want any of that stuff. So I've tried to eliminate anything that's kind of knick-knacky. So let's go through the gear here. Well, actually around the back here. So the next thing I'm doing is I'm putting in a walkway here. It's going to be wooden, sort of like a sort of Japanese style. Bit of a light underneath, just make it out of 2x2s, make a frame so that we can hide all the cables and pace. Like the whole idea is, because I like to pace so much, I've created this area behind so that I can just pace while I'm working. And so the next step again is to cover that up with wood so you don't see the floor. This is Oliver. This chair here is for, it's like if you're working on some of the tech stuff, you just want to move it, and if there's a third person or if somebody wants to sit nearer, that's the one that you use. But I wanted things to be sort of out of the way. This Marley speaker there is just part of my guitar practice rig. So I've got a little line 6 there, the Marley, and then those ones there that run through the Helix or the line 6. So it's like a great way to practice, and that's USB'd up into an input in Pro Tools. We work with Happy Cable Company, and they made us these amazing custom cables. So each one of the signal paths is a different color. So if there's a problem, we've got a document that we can then reference and then find out where things go and where they are. They're all the right length, but one step at a time. The next step is to, once we do the floor back here, to go back and organize this a bit differently. But it's, believe it or not, that's actually fairly logical back there. So on this rack, I made all the furniture. Well, I didn't make all of it. My dad made some of it, and I made like the desk. I'll show you there. But in the rack, what it is basically this side here is guitar stuff. So I've got one cable for all guitars, and it goes into a splitter unit, that radial one on the top there. And then that gets directed towards all the individual things. But it's basically, it's one cable that feeds all guitars, acoustic guitars, what have you, into several chains. You can either go into the GP or the Helix, or this is in front. So basically it goes from the radial into these pedals. It's just like in the front of the chain, except for the diamond, which is on the bass chain, but I'll explain that in a moment. And then this is the hub. So basically this is the sounds. Like I use the FM9 for almost everything, but I also use it in this case as a DI. So I run into this, I run into a DI, and then I have VSTs in my Pro Tools that are dedicated, the levels of the DI, whether or not it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, so that they come up with the right gain structure straight in. It's very quick, and with only one cable, you don't have to mess around. So this top, here's the hardware I basically use. Top unit here, TG2 channeler. Use it as a preamp for my clean vocal mic that goes into this compressor. And then the other side is for another microphone that I keep down at the bottom for where guests are here. It's a guest headphone. And we made this, that's a garbage can, and this is wrapped in a garden hose to make it an edge. But that's where those two microphones come in. The Cranbourne audio here at 500 series, we use their harmonic equalizer at the end of the master chain. It's a really fantastic unit, and the rest of the ones in the 500 series here are just kind of optional. I'm getting rid of that Motu. It was used for something I no longer use. For stereo, anything stereo, I use the Avid Matrix because the AD converters are great. And I started using Pro Tools however many years ago, and that's what I'm most comfortable with. So I'm kind of stuck with Pro Tools in some sense, even though I do use Logic and Ableton, and Pro Tools can be a pain in the ass, but there's parts of it I love still. I use this HDIO, the older one, before Avid made it obsolete, BAM, and I use this for another series of inputs. So I've got 16 inputs, although I only use 8 really. This below here is a split snake, so I can send all my same channels to both the Matrix as well as any other interfaces that I've got going, like the Universal Audio, which I use for just system sounds, because again, Avid doesn't play nice with anybody, so if I can dedicate my system sounds to an interface, then I don't have to think about that. So this is what I use for basically the master chain. I've been working with Phoenix Audio for a minute there, and this is their Nicerizer, and basically it is 16 mono channels that it's a summing amplifier essentially, and I run things through it just to warm it up and take some of the sharpness off the transients. This Aurea unit here, I started working with Audient, and this is dedicated entirely to our Atmos setup. And this Aurea unit is absolutely fantastic, and I would use it for everything, but I do like having everything sort of autonomous, so leaving that for just the Atmos has been great. And then this is also part of this is an old piece of gear that I've had forever, but this is part of the master chain, and that's an SSL compressor. I just use it to sort of 1 to 2 dB of gain reduction essentially on the end. There's pads paper wherever, picks wherever. That's where we do backups on top there. That's where we keep the hard drives for backups. Over here, I forgot to say, this drawer here is where we keep pedals. So these are sort of the go-to pedals that I use in front of the Axe effects. And this is a MIDI controller, of course, but this is weighted keys for people who actually know how to play keyboards when they're here. Whereas for me, I just use this little guy. So also underneath here, so I work with SPL as well, and this here is strictly for Atmos as well. So it's a passive unit. Each one of these is dedicated to a speaker and the LFE. Underneath here, this is the headphone amplifier, and that distributes to various places in the studio. There, and then my headphones here. But that also sends to the Auratone for monitoring in mono, and I've got a fold down unit in the back, so there's no phase weirdness when you mult down the stereo down to mono. This is a tuner. I was gonna say I always keep it on, but it wasn't on. Sonic Research. It's not the prettiest tuner, but it's the best one that I've ever used. It's so fast, it's unbelievable. So that same green cable here that runs into this radio unit constantly runs to the tuner as well. This artist mix here, again, Avid discontinued support for it, so all I use it for is this one fader here. I just use it for this, and basically any track that I select in Pro Tools defaults to this, so I can do my rides, and that's how I do automation, is manually for the most part. So having it so it's like ergonomic, like you're right there, right? This is the controller for the volume for the key speakers, which after I tried PMC, I tried Focal, I tried ATC, and one other, I forget. And because of the size of my room, they just created nodes and they sound, I couldn't figure out what the heck I was hearing. These keys are probably the most incredible speakers I've ever heard in my life. They have side-facing woofers that have like an offset that create a node behind the speaker, so the distortion that you're usually hearing in your sitting position from the reflections of the low end on the back wall, almost non-existent, and it's a shocking sound. Beautiful. And those are those sound anchor stands, and just to sort of isolate them a touch more. This is all I use for my, like the whole thing about how I work is speed, right? Like I really want to move fast. So this SSL unit here, every channel I put an instance of the SSL plugin on it. So when I select a channel, this is just automatically an EQ, compressor, bus, whatever, for whatever I'm looking at on the screen. It's amazing. Camera for zoom. This here, I love the idea of it, but I don't use it that much. I thought that I could use this one fader instead of this, but because of the protocol, again, with Avid, their Yukon thing, this doesn't work. You can't focus the track. You have to do it in a very strange way. It works perfect in Logic and Ableton, but again, I really like Pro Tools, so I just have to be frustrated by that. These Stream Decks, what I did was I made it so that each one of these corresponds to the template. So if I've got guitar, vocal, bass, drums, whatever, when I hit it, it automatically scrolls to that on the screen. And the same here, you know, I've got it for importing audio, changing to Logic, muting, audio or the automation lanes. And then we have you can go to different things like the Renice function, just so the Pro Tools can be allocated all the system power in case something else comes up. I've been using this Kensington trackball for so long that I struggle to use anything else. I use these IK Multimedias, which are lower, as just another reference. It's almost like a computer speaker, and that also comes off of the headphone amp. Underneath here, I've got an SM7 for my main vocal, and then for the main clean vocal, I have it on a stand, so that while I'm recording, I can just sing, and it goes straight onto there. This is a prototype that Roswell made for the Moth PowerNerd series, and it's incredible mic. All right, a couple of things that I didn't mention before. This monitor here is connected by USB-C, so it doesn't need any additional power, and I can sort of dedicate it, in this case, to the Aurea interface, so I can control my volumes and everything from there. But a good friend gave me that, and it's a great monitor. This monitor, however, is the be-all, end-all for me. Bit of reflection, but depending on where you're oriented with your seating position, it's tolerable. And There's just a TV that we have for the secondary monitor. This is usually got trains playing on it. That clock up there and everything, if you see, it's really about trying to be as symmetrical and clean as possible. I like hiding the cables, and it's still a work in progress, but I don't want to be distracted by anything, and I'm easily distracted, so there's that. This is where I charge my phone. You just lean it up against there. This is the desk that I made. I just went to the hardware store and got some rubber. It cost me about 10 bucks, and then I had a couple old pieces of oak that I just cut in there, but I didn't have enough for the top, so I used that for the zoom camera. Those IK multimedia speakers I'm using essentially just as like a second set of monitors, but they're more indicative of what you'd hear out of a computer, and they're also running from the headphone amp there as well, so that powers not only the Auratone but also those IKs. This is my water bottle, and this is a smokeless ashtray that I got at the dollar store. Some gaff tape, and just cut up a bunch of discs of trees that we cut down around here. This keyboard here is for me because I'm not really a keyboard player, and I only really need to input certain notes and drums. But again, when I have a real keyboard player here, they go to this one, which is a lot more elegant. This here, although it's not plugged in right now because I'm still working on a couple things with it, when I'm recording, often between edits, there's like silence in the room. And if there's somebody there with me, it's an awkward silence. So I use this. When I put it forward, it plays a constant stream of music from 1901 or 1910. And it's really quiet, and I put a light under there to make it look like a little like heater, but it's actually just like a salt light and the back of an old Mackie mixer. And yeah, all this furniture here, it's all crappy stuff that I made and spray painted, but it does the job, right? This microphone here, again, this is the Roswell one, and I either have it in front of me like that, or I have it up top aiming down, and that eliminates a lot of the reflection that might come back off of that speaker. Garbage can here, so you can just quickly chuck stuff. Dog. Let's see, what's next in here? Back here we've got, so the keys don't have the bass extension because it's too rich for my blood right now, but the low end on them is already quite magnificent. But for Atmos, I use this KRK for the LFE. But you see, here's the back of this desk. Again, like you don't want to know how the sausages are made, but that's how I made the sausages. It's just a cinder block. From the front, it looks great though. All the power in here is isolated, which was a huge job and expensive as well, but it's not, I mean, it's a beautiful studio, but it's also, I've got some friends who've got monstrous studios, and I don't need that. I just need a place that's big enough for one person, sometimes two, worst case three, and that's it. So that's my room. I had worked for 15 years in my last studio, which was just a glorified garage, and I knew how to use it really well. But PowerNerd was the first record I did in here, and it sounds pretty good, but it's gonna sound amazing because now I'm starting to, like, the next records are gonna sound amazing because now I'm starting to figure it out in here. But I'd like to thank all these companies that support this stuff. It's shocking to me that these companies support my work in the ways they do, and I can't thank them enough. And thank you. That's it. That's the Dev Lab. Talk to you soon.